Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. I wasn't going to do anything today. There are days, I'm sure other people get the same thing, where I just don't actually want to do anything. And today was one of those days, but I changed my mind. At the end of the day, whatever else is going on, the channel needs to carry on, doesn't it? So we will do a repot, and we're going to repot a Paphiopedilum, so that you know what's going on. And if you don't want to watch that, you can go off and watch some cat videos or something. That's what I've been doing for the last half hour. Funny cat videos. And some of the funniest ones are cats jumping out of the door into deep snow that just go plop and they're gone, and then this head pokes up. Amusing. Lightens the day. Right, now I haven't repotted a Paphiopedilum for a long time. Some considerable time. But this one is a relatively recently purchased one, so I don't know what's in the pot. I haven't taken it out of the pot yet. It looks like it's in bark, so in theory it should have some reasonable roots. Let's get round and start looking at the plant. You don't want to look at me, do you? Right, so this is our plant, and this is Paphiopedilum White Lady. I got this at the Rosemore event last year. A one-off event, highly likely to be, organised by Devon Orchid Society, and in a place I'd never been to before, down in deepest Devon. There's an RHS Gardens as well. Although the trouble is I've been spoilt because the RHS Gardens that I know are Kew and Wisley, and it doesn't matter what other RHS Gardens you go to, they're not a patch on either of those two. They can't be, basically. Anyway, so that's where I got this, and I got this for two reasons. It was in bloom, yes, but it's a good plant. Now this had two blooms on it, and the two growths that were in bloom are, there's the flower spike there, and round the other side of the plant there, which means all the other greenery on here hasn't bloomed yet. Now it depends whether this started out life as a division or was grown on from a seedling and the old seedling growths have been taken off. That depends, but effectively we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 growths on here that haven't bloomed. They may never bloom. I can't, you know, as I said, I haven't seen this grow from 3 years ago to now to actually work out what's going on here. But it is possible that some of those growths could grow. But what I liked about this was it was a nice plant. It's got slightly mottled leaves, nice patterning, and all the leaves are good. We've got no manky ones. It was just a nice, healthy looking plant for a start. So that's why I got it. A healthy looking plant above ground does not always mean a healthy looking plant below ground. So we'll roll our sleeves up because I've got a jumper on and I don't want to get dirt all in my jumper sleeves. And then we'll get it out the pot and see what we've got. If I'd known I was going to do this, I wouldn't have watered it. Right. We do not have an extensive root system, but what we do have is a bark-based media, which means when I put some new bark-based media in there, the roots are not going to object to the change, because there isn't really a change. I don't know how old, I was going to say, I don't know how old this media is, but it's a bit niffy. It's a bit mushroomy, I think that's the expression, polite version. But we've got some active new roots here. You can tell the new ones are the lighter coloured ones that are fluffy. These are not new roots, these are dead roots. Yeah? So we've got a mixture of reasonable roots and old dead ones. So there will need to be some root trimming. Hopefully not too much. Yeah, I can see where these new roots are coming from. They're all coming from this area here, which is where one of the growths that actually bloomed was. So I've just got a solid lump here that I want to break up. I don't want to leave it. See if I can try and get in between and tease it out. There we go. I don't need to get every single piece of old bark out, but I'd like to get the worst of it out. In fact, that will probably do, and then some more's going to come out with the dead roots. So we won't be using that again. We don't use those sort of pots. But we do have some good roots. Pleased with that. And we also have some old dead roots. So let's get the old skizzers and sorry, now I'm wondering what that was. That was some sort of fly in the media. The only flies I can think of that are in media are thrips when they hatch out. Right, so what we're looking for then is these papery type roots that have had their day. And we will just snip them off. Now, Paphiopedilum roots are capable of branching. They don't necessarily do it readily, but they are capable of branching. So if you get a damaged one like here, yeah, you can go back to the damaged bit or just a bit behind it and it might shoot out. Might not, but you've got nothing to lose. Now that looks like a relatively good root that's broken. So maybe this hasn't long been put in this pot, and in doing so a little bit of damage was done. There's a possibility. But nonetheless, the amount of roots that's left is plenty good enough. And hopefully we will get some more. I'm just checking to see if I can see any new roots pushing out from the base, which at the moment I can't. So we're relying on the ones we've got growing on, and in addition to that, possibly branching in some cases. But yes, we've got some good root activity in this area here. Okay, so that'll do. I wouldn't say that's a brilliant root system, but it should be good enough to hold this plant. That's just a couple of big bits of bark I want to get out. So, you know, it does make me wonder, because I haven't done this. This section here is fluffy roots. It's 3 roots and all 3 of them are broken. So it does make me wonder whether this has just been shoved in a pot relatively recently and not necessarily done very carefully. Well, you have to bear in mind nurseries haven't got time to fuss around like I'm doing now and spend this amount of time on one plant when they've probably got another 20 to do. But nonetheless, we've got some reasonable roots. So just put that in there for a minute. So I'll have a clear up, find a suitable pot, and I'll be back. Well, apologise for the noise. I don't know whether the camera's picking up, but it's getting pretty blowy out there at the moment. There's a distinct noise of wind rushing over. Strange garden this, because it's obviously blowing quite hard and the large trees are making the noise in the wind, and yet out here on the ground hardly anything's moving. But it's getting pretty blowy out there. We're in for some rain tonight and again tomorrow, I believe. And then we've got snow moving down from the north. Yep, you heard me right. We've got some snow on the way. It won't get this far south, it never does. And if it does, it will be here 1 minute and gone the next. Right, I've got a pot that is roughly the same size. Well, it's almost identical, apart from the fact it's an air cone pot, so it's got some extra drainage in the bottom. I'm not going to bother crocking this, and I'm using my, what's classed as my smallish bark, but the quality assurance on this bark is not exactly brilliant, so there's some bigger bits in here and some even smaller bits in here, but nonetheless the quality of the bark is quite good. So we will fill the bottom up because we don't want roots down in there unless they force their way down in there. We want to keep them in the media. Now, as I've said, we've got new roots coming out almost all round the plant. There's no growing tips on any of these roots. It seems to me like this has been jammed in a pot and had a bit of damage done. But some Paph roots are capable of branching. The plant is also capable of pushing out some new roots, so we're not totally dependent on the ones we've got. Now I've got to get this nicely positioned so that the top of the plant is where I want it, and for once I want it in the middle of the pot because this has got new growths all around it. So it's not, you know, like putting the old part of the plant up against the pot so that there's room for the new growths to grow. There's new growths in many directions. This plant would naturally split into two at least. I'm not going to split it, I want to try and keep it as a mature plant. And this is what was missing when I used to grow Paphs, because I could never get them to grow into a large plant. They always ended up with a new growth, the previous growth and the one before dying off, and that's all I ever had. I never managed to get a multi-growth plant heading towards a bush. Never managed to get that before. Now obviously I'm starting ahead of the game here because somebody else has done a lot of the work for this one rather than me, so I've just got a few bits of bark down in between the leaves, which is not ideal. Right, we get that out of the way and we can get this sat down. Start doing the old tapping. Yet again I'm potting dry, simply because there's a lot of air gaps, and if the media was wet and the pot was wet, which it was because I only just washed it, then this bark would not get down into all the gaps. And unlike some orchids, you don't want gaps on a Paph. Most Paphs would be classed as semi-terrestrials. They do tend to grow on the ground or on rock faces or outcrops. They do tend to be at ground level in some shape or form, and they're often in sort of leaf litter or debris and things like that. So they're not in the ground, not in dirt as such, but some of them grow on forest floors, you know, so again, they're probably in leaf litter, but they're not far off being in dirt if they're on the forest floor. Right, I don't see any gaps. I'm just nearly up to the base of the plant, not quite, a bit low around this side. There we go. I'm just checking because I don't want the bark too high, but I also don't want it too low, because roots come out near the base of the plant. They need to be able to get in something nice and quickly. So I'm happy with that. And yeah, I could do another one now and actually extend the video, but I think we'll just keep it to one. I've got another one like this to do, and I've also got my Paphiopedilum blackjack to do. Now that one was actually repotted by me, but it was done in 2003. It's been in the pot a while now. It's due to have the media refreshed, but we won't be doing that today. We'll leave it for today. So we'll put our tag back in, and then we'll give that an absolute drowning. Wash the dust off and pre-wet the media, ready to it gradually starting to accept more moisture, because this bark when it's new is like baked dry, and you know, you can pour a litre through that pot and a litre will come out the bottom along with the dust, but there won't be much stays behind, and in a couple of days it'll be dry again. So initially when I use this bark on its own like this, without perlite or anything else, it needs watering frequently for a while, and then eventually it's almost like there's a film or a coating on the bark, and eventually that washes off. The bark then acts normally and it can go into the same watering routine as the rest. So there we go, one Paphiopedilum White Lady redone. And do you know what's good about this repot? That mess went straight in my bag on the floor, and I haven't got any more mess. Got any more clearing up to do. I like that a lot. Anyway, before I go, I'd like to say welcome back Gail. She knows who she is. I don't know where she's been, probably none of my flipping business, but it's somebody who was a regular viewer and a regular commenter, and has been missing for some considerable time, and having mentioned that that person's been missing for a while, pop! There they are again. So welcome back. You do worry. I mean, there's a lot of my YouTube viewers are anonymous. They haven't necessarily got a picture of themselves on their channel, and they don't make videos. So you don't actually know what they look like. It's often just a letter, you know, just a colour with a letter in the middle. So you never know. You can get an inkling by the type of words that are used and the way the sentences are put together, whether it's a young person or not. But I know for a fact that Gail, like me, was not a spring chicken. And when people like that suddenly stop commenting, you worry that something's happened. So anyway, good to have you back. And for whatever reason you went missing, hopefully it was nothing I said. Because the mouth does run away with itself now and again. Anyway, one Paphiopedilum repot, and yeah, pleased with that. It's not a bad plant. Hopefully it will now progress and produce more new roots and fill that pot, because that was not a good root system. I'd call it an adequate root system, but it wasn't a good root system. So we'll see if we can generate one from now on. And yeah, don't forget the old thumbs up, and leave a comment by all means. And don't forget your hypes if you haven't done them yet this week. Still time. Not necessarily on my videos, but don't waste them. And if you're not subscribed, it would be nice if you did so. It doesn't cost anything, despite the terminology. That's YouTube's terminology. It's funny how certain countries start misusing the English language and turn it into something else. Never mind. I will see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.